Hey folks, Brian here. Before we get started, I just want to ask those who are listening who have not done so to please like, rate, review, and subscribe to the Confessions of an Arcade Addict podcast. And to those who have already done so, thank you very much, and please tell a friend. Now then, on with the show. I'm home.
Welcome to the Confessions of an Arcade Addict podcast, an introspective look at video gaming from the classic era to the modern day. Now here is your host, Brian.
Hey folks, what's going on out there? Brian here, and this is episode number 24 of the Confessions of an Arcade Addict podcast. Not too much going on since I recorded episode 23 about 3 weeks ago or so. I mean, of course, the coronavirus has the entire world on lockdown, so no arcades are open. Gatherings of over a certain number of people are prohibited. The stay-at-home order here in the state of Michigan just got extended to the 30th. So yeah, things are still kind of held up. I see just on Facebook, Doc Mac does like a daily little diary thing from the Galloping Ghost Arcade, which he owns, and he's talking about the fourth wing of the arcade that they're going to add, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, they're up over 760 games now in the arcade, largest arcade in the world. Um, Hopefully once all this craziness passes and things start getting back to a semblance of normalcy, we'll all be able to leave our houses and go out and do the things that we normally do, except maybe we won't take them as much for granted, because all it takes is something like this to take all of that away from us, and then we're stuck at home on the internet and binge watching Netflix and stuff like that, and only being able to go out for a walk or something like that because stores are closed, malls are closed, movie theaters are closed. Pretty much everything's on shutdown right now. So yeah, it's not the best of times for our planet, not just our country, because the rest of the world is in similar shape. So I plan on resuming my trips to the arcade in Brighton once things calm down and they get back to normal. My job has cut my hours, so I'm coming home earlier, but aside from taking my son for a walk, there's not too much to do. So I've just been playing games. I'm still doing emulation. I'm still playing BattleTech. I'm still playing Nova Drift. I found a website that actually has builds for the different types of firepower and shields and ship types, and I found one that's actually really satisfying, and now my high score on Nova Drift is just short of 500,000. But on the website where I got the builds from, somebody with the particular build I use got over 2 million. But they even say once you get past a certain level in the game, it just becomes RNG about what boss ships come out and how many come out and so forth and so on. And it just, you can just run into enemy fire or run into another ship, and then you're in all kinds of trouble. So, but that's what happens to me. So, but yeah, I'm having fun with it. I haven't played too much BattleTech. I'm gonna get back into that soon. I just got back into Elite Dangerous because they just put out a new beta which included carriers. For those who don't understand what the game is, Elite Dangerous is a modern day version of a game called Elite, released back in 1984. I had it for my Commodore 64, and so did all my friends, and it was a lot of fun to play. Now you have a 1-for-1 scale um, rendition of the Milky Way galaxy, and that's over 400 billion stars. So you can pretty much build. You got to build yourself up. You start with a small ship, 1,000 credits, and you have to build yourself up and through trading and bounty hunting, and if you're so inclined, piracy, um, and so on and so forth until you are able to earn enough money to buy better ships, and you also get rankings through what you do, whether it's combat, trade, or exploration, and also the PvP aspect of the game. There's rankings for that too. Let's see. As of right now, I'm a novice in combat. I'm a pioneer in exploration, which is only like I think one rank below elite ranking, and elite ranking in trading. I was able to find a whole bunch of information about trading, and I was able to get elite ranking in trading fairly easily. Exploration, it's a little harder, but I'm also undergoing a 20,000 light year journey from, they call it the bubble, that's where all the civilized systems are in the Milky Way galaxy, and going to outposts way out there in the galaxy. Like, there's a place called Colonia, which has a slowly growing society out there, and one of the things you need to do in order to progress in the game, you have to go out there at some point, and it's a long, long trip. I mean, 20,000 light years is nothing to sneeze at. Even if you've got a ship that can do hyperspace jumps at 30 or 40 light years a pop, it still takes a long time. And I'm just achieving that trip in bits and pieces and little chunks here and there. I mean, I'm almost there. I think I'm only like 2,000 light years away, and I'm going to try and get it done. And then there's a thing called the Neutron Highway, where you basically jump to neutron stars and you refuel your ship, and you are able to overboost your hyperdrive, and you're able to get back to civilization much, much faster. It's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous because neutron stars are just, they will kill you in a heartbeat if you're not careful, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, once you get to a certain point in the game, it can be really challenging. So in the game, the release they just put out, they have carriers now, which are these gigantic ships that you have multiple docking ports in, and you can actually put a lot of your ships, if not all of them, into a carrier, and then you can uh, hyperspace jump like 500 light years at a time. Then you have to mine a certain element to fuel your hyperdrive, then you do it again, and so forth. Um, what I'm finding out is that while it's in beta, the carriers themselves are horrifically expensive, like 5 billion credits. Yeah, that's a billion with a B. Just to get the carrier and to have certain services and certain things on on your carrier, you could easily spend like, oh, what? There's a person I follow on Twitch who was experimenting with getting a carrier and finding out how much it all costs, and the maintenance costs are like 100 million credits a week, which is, if you know how to mine for certain things or to trade for certain things, that's not difficult to do. But then the game becomes completely something else. I think they're probably going to have to lessen the actual maintenance costs and upgrade costs for a carrier in order for it, people to want to do it, because the majority of complaints I've been seeing, they're all crying about how ridiculously expensive it is. So we'll see how that goes. Aside from that, I started playing Black Desert Online, which is an action RPG. I'm still kind of figuring it out. I only played it a couple of times, but I'm going to keep playing it until at least, the outside world comes back to normal and I can actually go places again. So, as always, we'll see what happens. I hope you guys out there are staying safe and you're self quarantining. And I know it's a pain in the ass, and I know that it's driving you crazy by degrees, but this is what we need to do right now, especially in the United States. And, once things get back to normalcy, they develop a vaccine, and God forbid they develop a cure. I was listening to a podcast, the Eddie Trunk podcast, one of my favorites, and he was talking with somebody who's in the music business. I think it was a concert promoter, if I'm not mistaken, and they were talking about uh, how things were going to be once the all clear was given. Were people going to, rush out in droves and go back to doing what the things that they're doing, or were they going to sort of be a little more circumspect and a little more cautious, dare I say paranoid, because nothing like a disease that is at the moment uncurable, or a virus of some sort that can cost people their lives. There's nothing like that to ramp up human paranoia, and there's a lot of that going around too. You all saw it, and maybe some of you listening even participated in it when everybody started buying up ridiculous amounts of staples in supermarkets and various stores, to the point where these store chains had to come up with rules about how many things you can buy, because people just went absolutely nuts. And, it was something that really made me a little bit ashamed, to be, an American or a human being, even, because when things get tough, this is how some people react. They go to a supermarket or store and they just buy up all the toilet paper and paper towels and various foodstuffs and things like that. They don't buy what they actually need. They go overboard. I was not happy about that. But anyway, enough of that. I did a quick check through the emails. There's nothing there, and voicemails are empty. Like I've said, if you want to get a hold of the show, by all means, please do so. The easiest way to get a hold of me is to email me at arcadeaddictbrian, that's all one word, at gmail.com. Also, there is a phone number for voicemails. That phone number is 734-743-2433. Also, we have a strong social media presence out there. There's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr. Probably the easiest way to get a hold of me would be through Facebook, because I'm on there the most. Just checking out things from the various groups I follow, and also, seeing what my family members are up to. On Facebook, just search for Confessions of an Arcade Addict. They'll take you right to the page. There's also a page for the there's a Confessions of an Arcade Addict podcast page. That's good for discussion for various things, games, episodes I do, any mistakes I make, and God only knows I make quite a few. Just post it there. I look at that every so often, and I'm more than willing to correspond with you guys, and we can build a little bit of a social presence there. Also, On Twitter, you can get a hold of me at arcadeaddict_B. Instagram is at arcadeaddictbrian. And Tumblr is tumblr.com/blog/confessions of an arcade addict. So you have multiple ways of getting a hold of the show if you want to, and I would like you to, because it gets a little lonely just sitting here at my desk with a headset on and rambling about stuff that happened, 20, 30 years ago. In some cases 40. But yeah, so by all means, if you have anything to say, like I said, as long as you're nice, by all means do so. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's get on with the show. I've got a little bit to talk about here. It's not too crazy this time, but in a couple of episodes upcoming, I do have quite a bit to talk about, but not so much this time. But anyway, let's get on with it. Let's go to top 10s. Top 10s, 1990. Okay, at this point, I'm 21 years old. The times, they are changing. With the closing down of a lot of arcades and game rooms, these were indeed the dark times in my hometown. Spanky's had just shut down in this year. That was a very sad day. Um, we still had places like Arnie's place out in Westport and Milford Rec, but the opportunities to get to these places didn't come along very often. The majority of people I knew that used to go to arcades on the regular simply didn't go as much anymore. I rarely saw Mark nowadays. If I'm 21 years old, Mark I think is 25, and our lives are a little bit different now. It's not like back in like 1983 when I'm like 14 years old and he's like 17 or 18. So I didn't see him a lot. My best friend Robert had a new group of friends to hang out with, so I hardly ever saw him anymore. I did have a new group of friends that I was just getting to know. Um, we all would gather at mostly at my friend Matt's house. Matt's family was really nice. Shout out to his father Mark and his mom, who her name escapes me right now, and I should be whipped for that because they've always been really nice people. I can remember several times where it would be like 9 or 10 of us in their house, in their living room, uh, on their not their living room, on their dining room table, playing D&D or playing BattleTech or playing Shadowrun, that kind of stuff. Or we'd be out in the backyard playing basketball. Um, I'm almost embarrassed to even cop to this, but full disclosure, there is a video of me on Facebook where, let's see, I think it was Matt's graduation from high school, if I'm not mistaken, and it turned into a big family get together. And so it was me, Matt, Jason was running the camera, and a whole bunch of people from the online community that we had established. We were all over Matt's house, and there's a big cookout, and we're playing volleyball and basketball and all this and all these other things, and yeah. Matt posted that video, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I am so embarrassed, because God only knows I was talking a lot of junk that day. But anyway, yeah, my friend Matt and my friend Chris, we would kind of be like the Three Musketeers, or actually, when it came to basketball, we were the Bomb Squad. That's what we called ourselves. So yeah, we would go and play basketball at various locations. Yeah, like I said, we'd go over Matt's house and play RPGs, and every so often we'd go to Milford Rec if we all had money, or Matt had his dad's car and he had permission to use it. Sometimes if I paid for Chris's gas and gave him like another 5 in tokens, we would go to Milford Rec and we have some fun up there. But those opportunities didn't come along very often. As I had stated before, later this year I'll get a second job in the mall working at a Nintendo kiosk, and before that, I was there every day after work at that kiosk playing games with a bunch of guys that would also frequent the place, and we would have wars on like games like Baseball Stars and stuff like that, and we would get to know the managers of the place. That story is forthcoming. I think that's episode 27, where I talk about that in story time. So stay tuned for that. Okay, let's get on to the top tens. Um, like I said, these are the games that I thought were the best ones in 1990. So let's just go right to it. Aliens. Of course, this was the game that was in lockstep with the movie that came out in 1986, and I only played this a couple of times. I'm trying to remember where I saw it, and I can't. I think Milford Rec had it for a little while. But yeah, I mean, it was a good game. I mean, it went right along in lockstep with the movie, and it was fun to play. Not as much fun to play as Aliens versus Predator, but we'll get there. Let's see, that's what 1994, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, Combat Tribes. This was another beat 'em up. I think this one was by Technos, and it was basically a three-player game. So you can have up to, yourself and two other people, fighting all these gang members, to beat the big boss at the end, so forth, so on. It's pretty typical of most beat 'em ups. Mercs. This was a game by Capcom. This was like a running shooter. It was sort of in the vein of like Contra and like Commando. It's sort of like a combination between Contra and Commando. And it had destructible environments, and it was an interesting game to play, but yeah, it just didn't really capture my interest all that much. I mean, I played it every so often, but it's not like I was throwing money at it like some games that I did back in the day. Pit Fighter. This is a game by Atari. This is one of the first um, fighting video games with digitized characters. Of course, this is like one of the first because the digitization is really bad. I mean, it's really bad. Um, you had a choice between three different characters. It's the typical thing. One is fast but doesn't inflict a lot of damage. One's in the middle, and one is strong but isn't very fast. That kind of thing. Um, I was watching a video like a couple weeks ago about somebody who went through the entire game, and I was just watching it, and I was just like, man, I can't believe how much money I threw at this game. Because yeah, I was down with fighting games. I loved them. Let's see, Race Driving. This is the sequel to Stunt Driving, and now you have a choice between, I believe it's four cars, and you have not only the stunt track, which was from the first game, but you also have I'm sorry, you have a speed track and a stunt track once again, but because you're taking different cars, some handle really good, some are really fast, and then of course you have the one, the ubiquitous car that came in Stunt Driving. I liked it. It was fun, but you know, I think I liked the original a little bit better. But it wasn't bad. Let's see, Raiden. Yeah, Seibu Kaihatsu. This man is like the grandfather uh, of the modern day shooter. This is a fun game. I wasn't that familiar with it in the arcade. I didn't start seriously playing it until I bought a copy of Raiden for like $3 for my PlayStation 1, and I really started getting into playing it. I still have my PS1. I still have Raiden. But yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. It's sort of like not Super Cobra, Twin Cobra, and the games of that ilk. Same kind of thing. Just done a lot better with a lot better graphics. It's a fun game to play. The entire Raiden series is a hoot to play. Even though it gets really hard really fast, like most Japanese shooters do. Smash TV. This is sort of kind of the sequel to Robotron. um, The control setup is exactly the same: two control sticks, one to move and one to fire. But this game has all kinds of cheesy game show elements to it. Basically you're in a game show and you're trying to earn money, while you're going through various enemies and so forth, and the game gets ridiculously hard. The levels are ridiculous because some of them are really funny. Um, it's a lot of fun to play, but it can get a little frustrating because there's no uh, there's an end to it, but you have to be really really good to get there. Okay, Super Space Invaders 91. This, of course, is in the Space Invaders franchise, developed by Taito. Um, this game is Space Invaders, but I won't say on steroids, but it's been given an adrenaline boost. The gameplay is a lot faster. The aliens are um, much more aggressive and not difficult to defeat, but it is. You have to be a little bit better than you were back in 1978. That's for sure. Um, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I love the game, and it's a hoot to play. I play it in emulation every so often, and it's a challenge. It really is. Um, I mean, not only do you get points for shooting the saucers that go across the top, but they also drop power ups which help you out. Um, and it's a different take on Space Invaders, and actually it deserves its place right along the original machines. That's for sure. Okay, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Turtles in Time. Um, this one, of course, is the sequel to the first game, which came out in what, 1988, 88 or 89, I forget now. But the gameplay is a lot smoother, a lot faster. The boss enemies at the end of levels are harder to beat, and it's just one of those games where it's much more fun to play, because it just seems to me that there's just a little bit more to it, and it makes it more fun. Um, the attack sequences of the turtles are a lot smoother, a lot faster, and they're a lot of how should I say this? Different special attacks that go along with it. Like my favorite one, of course, is where you get in close to an enemy and it looks like you're going to throw him, but instead of throwing him to the ground, you actually hurl him towards you on the screen. It's pretty freaky to look at, but it's very well done. Very well done. Konami did a great job with this game. And finally, and Rampart. This one is a, how should I put this? Um, I can't remember what the name of the game was, but basically it was like you had to angle your cannons. It's sort of like Missile Command meets Tetris. That's the best way I can put it. You select a different castle. There are like 5 locations on a segment of land, and you can pick one of those 5, and it builds a wall around it. Then you get to place your cannons, and then you actually shoot at incoming ships that are coming in from the shore that are shooting their cannons at you to destroy the walls of your castle. Um, it's a lot of fun. I mean, the rounds last maybe about 30 to 45 seconds apiece, and then you do a ceasefire, and then you have to rebuild your castle walls like Tetris, because you get certain pieces and you got to make them fit in a certain way, to build your wall back up, so then you can go on to the next level. And then you go on to another piece of land, same thing, and it becomes a little more difficult because now the incoming ships have much more accurate firepower, and so on and so forth. But yeah, it's not a bad game. It really isn't. Let's see. Honorable mentions. Double Dragon 3. I only put this here out of respect for the first 2 games because this game is terrible. Compared to the other 2, it's terrible. It's not bad on its own as a beat 'em up, even though the action is a little stilted. It's nowhere near as smooth as the first 2 games, in the Double Dragon franchise, but on its own, it's okay. But when you compare it to the first game and especially the second game, which is my favorite in the franchise, it falls a little short. Let's see. Final Lap 2. This is, of course, the sequel to Final Lap. The Now you are basically doing a more or less a Formula One season. If I'm not mistaken, there are 12 tracks you have to beat. First you have to qualify, and then you actually go in the race. You actually race, and then you have to, of course, finish first to beat to win that Grand Prix and go on to the next one. This game, like I said, with Final Lap, the steering is really sensitive. It doesn't take much for you to send your Formula One car into a spin, and if you do that, that's pretty much game over. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. What can I even say about this game? I really wasn't into it when it was in the arcade because the only place I ever saw Michael Jackson's Moonwalker was in Arnie's place, if I'm not mistaken. I think the arcade at Connecticut Post Mall had it, but I'm pretty sure I'm almost certain that Arnie's had it. I played it once or twice. It just wasn't for me. I understand what the game was about, but yeah, it wasn't for me. And then I played the Genesis version, and it still wasn't for me. But that's just me. But it was kind of revolution. The game was revolutionary at the time. Michael Jackson's legacy could never have been larger at the time. And when a video game comes out, yeah, that pretty much says that you're big time. If you have a video game named after you, no matter if you're an athlete or a pop star or what have you. So yeah. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. I mean, it's not a bad game. Like I said, it's just not 100% for me. So those are my top 10s. If you have a game in 1990 game that you think should be on this list, by all means get a hold of me. arcadeaddictbrian@gmail.com. Okay, let's move on to Are You Experienced?
I'm too old for this. Hiding in front seats like a teenager.
Hoppy, I think I'm getting too old for this stuff.
I'm getting too old for this.
Listen, you was born too old for this.
I'm getting too old for this.
I'm getting too old for this. Lying wet-arsed in the heather chasing other men's cattle.
I'm getting too old for this sort of thing.
Maybe we're getting too old for this. What do you think, huh?
I'm not too old for this shit. I'm not too old for this shit. You will not. We're not too old for this shit.
We're not too old for this shit.
We're not too old for this. Say it like you believe.
We're not too old for this shit.
Yeah.
We're not too old for this
I'm not
shit.
gonna buy a hemorrhoid cushion.
We're not too old for this shit.
Are You Experienced? Exerion. Okay, this is a game that not too many people know about. Not a lot. It's an interesting shooter. It's one of my favorite. It's almost like a guilty pleasure game with me because, I'll explain it as we go on because we're going to go into pretty much descriptions of it. Especially, I'm going to start with some information from Wikipedia. So here we go. Exerion is a video game developed and published by Jaleco. It was released in arcades on February 1983 and licensed to Taito for manufacture and distribution of the game in North America. The player controls a starship and must fire at enemies on the screen while avoiding projectiles. The game uses a pseudo 3D scrolling background, giving a sense of depth, and the player's ship has a sense of inertia while it's being controlled with the joystick. The game features parallax effects and inertia simulation. The player shoots formations of bizarre alien amoeba, egg-throwing birds, and pterosauric creatures, as well as UFOs, while flying over the surface of a planet. The player has two types of guns, a slow double shot, which is unlimited, and a fast single shot, which has limited ammunition. Let's see. The family computer version of the game is included in the compilation Jaleco Collection Volume 1 for the PlayStation 2003, as well as the Game Boy Advance game Jajamaru Jr. Denshoki Jaleco Memorial, along with 5 other Jaleco family computer games. The original arcade version was later released for the PlayStation 4 as part of the Arcade Archives label on October 23, 2014 in Japan, and on July 7, 2015 in North America. And also on the Nintendo Switch in the Nintendo eShop by Hamster Corporation as part of the same series. 2 sequels of the game were released. Exerion 2 Zorni was released for the MSX in 1984 alongside a port of the original arcade game. The second, Exerizer, was released for arcades in 1987, which was released in North America by Nichibutsu under the title Sky Fox. The player's ship, the Fighter EX, is a player character in Jaleco's game Tengoku series. Very interesting. Okay. Let's see. My own experiences with the game are as follows. The first time I ever played this game was at the Rexall drugstore in the mall in late 1983. It's at least summer 1983, but I think it was towards the end. It was like a mixture of Galaga, Gyrus, and Phoenix. The inertial controls really mess with me because I think that was the first game I ever played that had that feature. It looks nice, but as a wise man once told me, don't let the smooth taste fool you. You have to have pinpoint accuracy at times with your movement. And once you learn the secret scoring, your fire as well, especially your fire. I still play this game to this day in emulation, as I have not seen an arcade that has had it since I left Connecticut. I think I have something of a masochistic relationship with this game because Exerion is one of a handful of games that can beat me down, but I'll still keep coming back for more about it. You know, that's just how it is. It's one of those games that, yeah, once you know how to play it, you know, it's sort of, I can't even describe the feeling. It's zen. Somebody said it was like a zen kind of video game that you had to sort of get in flow with the game and not try to play the game, so to speak. And that's a difficult mindset to get into, let me tell you. But enough about that. Let's pivot right on into time for some strategy, and I'll tell you all about how to get good at it.
What happened?
Good bad tactics, Mr. Ryan.
Oh, I never should have doubted you, boy!
There's a plan in everything, kid. And I love it when a plan comes together.
It's about time for me to employ a little strategy.
Time for some strategy. With Exerion, it's all about conserving your rapid fire and being very precise with your double shots while avoiding getting shot down. The secret to this game is to rack up what I call the consecutive shot bonus. That means you have to hit your targets without missing. When you start the game, there will be a long line of enemies that come down from the top left of the screen. You position your fighter under them and dispatch them with either your rapid fire or your double shots. If you destroy them all without missing a shot, you get a bonus score of 400 points. For each group of enemies that comes out, nailing them all without missing will increase this bonus, and the bonus gets bigger fast. Of course, you need to dodge their shots and keep them from ramming you while doing so. It's easier said than done. Because sometimes when enemies come down from the top of the screen and they'll go down to the bottom and you think they're going to wrap around and come back from the top again, sometimes they'll come up from the bottom and you may not be expecting them and they'll ram you and that'll lose your life. I think you only get one free life in this game. I can't remember what score it is. I think it's 10,000 points, but I'm not 100% sure. After several groups, singular aliens will start coming out. If you kept your shot bonus going, you'll see it increase even more quickly if you don't miss. You can miss one shot and the bonus will get cut in half and you have to build it back up, but if you miss more than one shot, you start at the bottom and you have to work it up again. I was watching a video on YouTube where someone had almost 300,000 points within the first 2 minutes of his game just because he didn't miss any shots. He ended up with a score of 2.9 million, which is not too shabby considering this game can really get hard, and you're having to deal with the inertial controls, which can mess with you until you sort of learn how to flow with it. You kind of gotta develop just develop like this smooth kind of movement that if you know where you're going to go, you can't like jam the stick in that direction. You just kind of got to ease your way around the screen. It's not a very easy mindset to achieve, let me tell you. After the singular aliens, then these huge aliens come out that require multiple shots to destroy. You take your time and take them out. From then, there's these ball aliens that come out. These are hard to hit because they move in an undulating pattern as they descend and move around the screen. At this point, I abandoned the shot bonus because they fire semi-tracking projectiles, and you have to spend a lot of your time trying to avoid them. And of course, the aliens themselves, who have no qualms about ramming you. Usually, I will use both double shots and rapid fire to dispatch them. If you are good with your two shot strategy, you can have like 400 rounds for your rapid fire. Oh, and also the other thing is that as you hit aliens, your rapid fire ammunition goes up by 1. And so that way you can really build up your stockpile and be able to use rapid fire when you need to. Okay, from those huge aliens that come out, there's also there's now a challenging stage like Galaga. You have unlimited rapid fire here, and the aliens come out in formation patterns, a group of 10. If you blast all 40, you get more ammo for your rapid fire cannon, and from there action continues, but the enemies move and shoot faster. Knowing how to maneuver your fighter is extremely important. It's really easy to get killed if you're too slow to react or if you stay in one part of the screen. Avoid getting trapped and be patient when possible. You're not, under any sort of time crunch. You can take your time as much as you want to keep your bonuses going, because that's how you get your points. The more bonuses you get, the higher it goes. I mean, I watched that one guy on YouTube. He had bonuses in the 9,000s. Just by shooting enemies consecutively and not missing. And you just keep doing that, and yeah, you can rack up a huge score really quickly. Like I said, if the aliens scroll off the bottom of the screen, most of the time they'll reappear at the top to take another run at you, but sometimes they'll try to sneak you by coming up from the bottom. A lot of that happens, and some of them have like these energy screens on either side of them, and they'll try to get alongside of you and eject the energy screen towards you. Of course, that kills you if it hits you, so yeah, be wary of that. Like I said, someone said this game is very zen, and I have to agree. You have to flow with the game to get the results you want. I mean, it's really hard of a state of mind to achieve, but once you do it, you can play this game as long as you want to. The major thing you have to avoid is getting the urge to chase after enemies. Let them go by. If they come up from the bottom, so be it. Just avoid them. But most of the time they'll come back off the top of the screen. You can take another run at them. Like I said, it's one of these games where you have to learn patience. You have to learn to be able to say, okay, I can't go here because of the inertia, but I can go here, and maybe this will work for me. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. But it's a game that it takes a lot of time to truly master. My highest score on Exerion is like, 600,000 points or something like that. I think I did that in emulation several years ago, because I haven't seen an Exerion machine since I left Connecticut. And those are my tips and tricks to get good at Exerion. Be patient. More than anything else, be patient. Okay, you have any tips, tricks of your own? anything you want to share in regard to this game, by all means, get a hold of me, arcadeaddictbrian@gmail.com. Okay, and the last segment of this show will be arcade reviews, so let's do this. Arcade review, Arnie's Place in Westport, Connecticut. Okay, this is one of the arcades I used to frequent when I was a child, and going into my teen years, and a little bit into my 20s before I left Connecticut. Of course, when I did the arcade rundown in regard to this arcade, I mean, you guys know the story. The owner, Arnie Katz, was constantly fighting with Westport City Council and all other town officials, and until he shut the arcade down in, what year was it? 1995, I think. I'd have to go back and look. I think it was 95. But it was long after I left to go to Florida, because I left in 93. Okay, like I've said, when it comes to reviewing an arcade, I have 5 criteria: location, selection, ambiance, functionality, and value. Location, pretty self-explanatory. Where is it? Is it easy to get to? Is there plenty of parking when you get there? Things like that. Selection. How many games do they have? Do they have a wide variety? Do they span the various decades of video gaming, or are they kind of focused in one particular area? Ambiance. Are there other things in that arcade aside from the games to draw your eye? Is there music? Is it decorated well? Is there pictures? Are there pictures? Are there paintings? Things like that to sort of draw the eye and sort of enhance the experience. Is the staff friendly? Do they listen to you if you've got an issue with a game? Do they do something to rectify the situation, or do they not care? Things like that. Functionality. What do the games look like? How do they play? When a game is broken, does it take a long time for them to fix it? Things like along that nature. And lastly, value. Do they run on tokens? Do they run on quarters? Do they have the free play option? If so, how much is it? How much is it to play the games, and so forth and so on? Like I said, each of these criteria is rated 1 to 10, with half points coming into play. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get on with it. Location. I give this a 5. I could have gone lower, but I think 5 is fair. Like I said when I talk about the arcade rundown, Arnie's was really hard for me to get to. I did a view on Google Maps, and the distance from my house on the north end of Bridgeport out to Arnie's in Westport is 11 miles. That doesn't seem like a lot, but being a kid with little money, it might as well have been in New York City for all it mattered. If I went out there by myself, I had to take 2 buses to get out there, then walk for another mile or so from where the bus lets off to get to it, or ride my bike for well over an hour. It's on US 1 in Westport, and it's relatively close to both Interstate 95 and the Merritt Parkway. So because of that, I have to give it average marks, because it's on a major thoroughfare and it's close to 2 major highways. So yeah, that's a 5. Selection, 7. Arnie's had a decent variety of games, and usually had newer games of the day. It wasn't an average size standalone building. I think they had about somewhere between 40 to 50 games. It was a halfway decent. It was a decent arcade. It really was. Ambiance, I give that a 9. Arnie knew how to get people in the door. That's for sure. From the moment you walk in there, you think you're in a casino from the 60s or early 70s. It's brightly lit with incandescent bulbs everywhere you look. Every machine is in a wooden enclosure and lined with more incandescent bulbs. I think there was music playing over the PA, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was either a rock station in Fairfield or Norwalk. The carpet was that kind that casinos would have too, where when you walked, you felt yourself sink into it just a little bit when you walked around the place. Just for that, I loved the place. I loved going there when I could. It's just getting there was tough. Um, let's see. Like I said in Arcade Rundown, if you look on my Anchor homepage and you see the picture of a guy playing a video game in a wooden enclosure, and it's pretty brightly lit and stuff like that, and there's like a woman with a child in a stroller in the picture. That's Arnie's place. That's exactly what it looked like. Okay, functionality 6.5. The games were in really good shape, and they worked pretty well. But if one of them went down, they stayed down for a long time. That's kind of a minor knock on the place. I mean, that's just how it was. But then again, I also understand getting video games fixed is an expensive prospect. you know, just go talk to Doc Mac for 5 minutes. He'll tell you. Let's see. And finally, value. I give that a 7. Arnie's ran on tokens, and they always did. I wish I still had a token from them when I used to collect that stuff, but that stuff got lost when my parents moved house after I left in '93. They ran on tokens. The usual thing was 5 for $1 and 25 for 5. I think they went as high as 6 for $1 and 30 for 5. I think that's as far as they went with it. It was also located in right in the shopping area of Westport, so you could actually leave, go get something to eat, and come back if you wanted to. The value was pretty decent. Let's see. You add all that together, divide it out by 5, and the total score is 6.9. That score is higher than I thought it originally was going to be, but despite its relatively remote location, I have to give it high marks for the atmosphere, because going there was different than going to almost any other arcade in the area, with the exception of Milford Rec. I would love to see his place make a comeback, considering that arcades are in something of a renaissance in the United States, but I know Westport. And I know the people who live out there, and I saw when I was doing research for Arnie's place, the lengths that a lot of people went to kind of get that place shut down. And it didn't help that Arnie Katz was a combative person, and of course that it was going to end eventually. It was not going to end very well, but it still had a good run going all the way through the 80s into the early 90s before they shut down. So that's Arnie's place in a nutshell. If you lived in the Fairfield County area and you used to go there a lot, I know there are several people on Facebook who are in the Arnie's Place discussion group. They talk about stuff from time to time. If any of you guys are listening, by all means, get a hold of me here. Drop me an email, drop me a voicemail. I would love to talk about your experiences with the place, because mine are colored a certain way, and I'm pretty sure yours are colored a different way. arcadeaddictbrian@gmail.com. Okay, that's pretty much it for this short show. Looking ahead to episode 25. Let's see. I talk about a barcade that's close to where I work. I have another video game for our experienced and Time for Stragedy. I talk about I go into home systems, and there is also an on-the-road segment as well, so there'll be plenty for you to listen to when I record my next episode. So, until then, This is Brian saying, have fun out there, good gaming, stay safe, stay apart, let's get through this craziness. Au revoir.
This has been the Confessions of an Arcade Addict podcast. All music has been provided by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his music at incompetech.com. You can contact the show by email at arcadeaddictbrian@gmail.com, or you can call and leave a voicemail at 734-743-2433. Until next time, you have been listening to the Confessions of an Arcade Addict podcast. See you then.